joined by One Kick Nick and Matt Holtz here today. You know what that means.
You forgot to use his code name.
His nickname, Mr.
Yes.
Odds Matt Holt. That
Mr.
means you're
Odds.
getting some good tips.
And if you
that can make you
download
some money.
you can download the app, CG Sports Technology.
The CG Sports app, powered by CG Technology, and you can place all your bets right from your phone.
And you're going to want to do it this week because this is one of those weeks. There's a lot of viewing parties in town. I know that Legacy Stadium at the Palazzo has been sold out for 5 weeks for this card. The M's having a viewing party. There's a lot of big viewing parties in town. And, you know, you get to one of those viewing parties, you don't want to have to leave the viewing party, go back to the sports book, or stand in a line after every single fight. Download the app. Bet the fights where you're watching the fights. That's kind of how people bet in 2017.
Maybe we should go
That's
watch.
right.
Maybe we should go to the watch. And that way, if people ask us what we're doing, we just show them the app.
That's right. Going to the casino to put a bet down, it does seem like ancient history. You know, I'm surprised this app is as new as it is, you know? I mean, I just got on this app this year.
I mean, it's okay if you just want to go bet a game to come to the casino. Hey, I'm going to bet the Super Bowl, or I'm going to bet Game 6 of the playoffs tonight, and that's it. But when you're going to watch an event like UFC, where you can bet on 14 fights, and you're going to start at the beginning of the card and watch them all, what are you going to run up there 15, 16 times? Sit there on your mobile phone and make your bets. I mean, that's how people do it.
I never even thought of it like that. I could be watching our fights. I never even thought that I could go back on the app, and since I blew my first parlay, I could do another parlay.
Yeah.
Wow. Doesn't get easier than that. And what a stacked card. The undercard is awesome. And there's, a lot of money to be made on this card when it comes to value and finding good bets, man. Where do we start? The depth is so deep.
Look, they always say in media, never bury the lead, and I think you have to start with the main event here, the heavyweight title rematch. Stipe Miocic, Junior Dos Santos, and I'll tell you, the betting activity with the 3-week lead up to this fight with no cards has been unbelievable. On Monday of this week, with 6 days to go until the fight, we'd already taken more action on this card than we took on Canelo Alvarez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. from the Saturday prior. This card's doing unbelievable handle. This line itself opened at Stipe Miocic minus 185, down all the way to minus 125, couple 5-figure bets later, all the way back up to minus 160, all over the place, and really smart UFC bettors. I think you can make a strong case for both sides of this fight.
Yeah, you can, but I mean, Junior Dos Santos being an underdog and winning the first fight, I always see that as a red flag when it comes to putting bets down. Oh, let's take a look at their first fight again. Who won that fight? Junior Dos Santos won that fight. Who's the underdog? Junior Dos Santos. Ding, 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 ding. Bet Junior. That's what my brain tells me.
Yeah, that's what my brain tells me too. Bet Junior.
And that was my thought too, right out of the gate. But I talked to a really smart MMA bettor with us, and who placed one of those big bets on Stipe. And I said, tell me why you like Stipe, because I really like Junior Dos Santos, and I'd like to hear the other side. And he said, look, this is a great spot for Stipe Miocic. The guy was a firefighter for a long time throughout his fighting career and didn't dedicate himself full-time to only fighting until basically the fight before JDS. And he said through that period of time, this guy, you didn't realize when you're not a full-time fighter how many maybe still amateur things you're doing in training. And look, the results have shown 4 straight wins, all by knockout.
Well, that last one, you get a knockout from a guy that's got a glass chin.
It doesn't mean as much.
It doesn't mean as much, right? But he was almost out of there. He got that bad choke that he was fighting. So he could have lost that one so easy.
Yeah, that is true. But back to Matt's point, you're saying Stipe Miocic is probably the more improved fighter. But then again, we were talking earlier, you think Junior Dos Santos has improved his footwork, lights, and bounds beyond the first fight.
Look, I think both of these guys have made great strides. If you look at JDS's fights, number 2 and number 3 against Cain Velasquez, he just got pushed against the fence. He didn't know how to circle out, and JDS just beat the crap out of him against the fence.
Yeah.
I mean, Cain Velasquez. in fights number 2 and 3 against the fence. And when you look more recently, JDS against another big heavyweight in Ben Rothwell, every time he got back near the fence was circling out of there, using that great footwork, sticking that jab in Rothwell's face. And I thought he made Ben Rothwell look bad in that fight, and Ben Rothwell's a really good heavyweight.
Yeah, he is, but probably not the fastest heavyweight. I think there's going to be a little speed difference in this fight compared to that one. And Stipe Miocic is a really fast heavyweight.
I think they both have fast hands. Do you think the advantage is that maybe JDS is a little bit better kicker than Stipe, who's more of a pure boxer?
Yeah, his kicks are definitely better. I think a slight hand speed advantage goes to Stipe Miocic. One punch knockout power, I got to give that one to Junior. So this is a really even matchup.
And Stipe keeps his chin high in the air.
But who's knocked him out?
Stephan Struve.
Oh my goodness, that's right. That's
Yeah.
his last loss.
Yeah.
But that's back when he was firefighting.
That's right.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have the encyclopedia with us,
There's no way we would have kicked that one. That's right. You know, this fight, I kind of said I'm going to bet who's ever the dog in this fight, and Stipe Miocic is the favorite, even though Junior won the first one. Junior, a slight underdog. I'm kind of leaning towards putting my bet down on him.
And a lot of people think because, JDS has been around so long, I mean,
Wear and
fighting in
tear.
the first ever UFC on Fox 1 card, that he's the older fighter. In actuality, he's a year younger than Stipe.
A year younger, but the car has more miles on it.
It sure does, for sure. I mean, he took some beatings from Cain Velasquez
Yeah, he
in their
did.
second and third fights.
Stipe Miocic, his toughest fight, his fight that probably took the most wear and tear and maybe put the most miles on was that first fight with Junior Dos Santos.
I agree. It's the only fight where he went the distance, I believe.
All 5 rounds.
Yeah.
And that was before he won the title. Non-title, main event, 5-rounder.
well, that's making that round and a half look real good right now.
I can't bet any heavyweight. One thing I've learned is I never bet any heavyweight fights over the total. There's a reason why a 5-round fight has a total of 1.5 rounds. With those 4-ounce gloves, it only takes one shot.
If a fight's most likely to end in the first round, it's going to be the heavyweight fight.
Yeah.
So, but these guys both have really good gas tanks, and we saw that in the first fight. Really even matchup, and man, if we go around putting our picks in, I think I would have picked Stipe, but since Junior's the dog, I think there's a little more value in betting him. And he did win the first fight, even though it was razor close. You guys?
I'm taking Junior.
I'm taking Junior as well for all the reasons that we just discussed. Plus, I love all the 5-round experience he has. I mean, this guy knows how to win 5-round fights. And I like the fact that JDS doesn't have to knock out Stipe to win this fight. He can use his footwork, use his jab, just like he did the first time, and outwork Stipe, where Stipe seems to knock you out. He seems to get that knockout if he's going to win. So I think a lot of advantages for JDS here. Plus, you got to love the plus money.
Yeah.
You gotta love the plus money.
And that would be the first pick of my parlay.
And the second one, who knows? We're going to the next title fight. Joanna, your Jed chick, am I saying this right? Yes, versus Jessica Andrade. And Jessica Andrade losing 20 pounds. She's coming down from 135 pounds to 115 pounds. And she's got her hands full. She's never faced anyone as fast with the hand speed that Joanna has.
And look here, we've taken a lot of action on this fight on both sides as well. This fight has been as high as we opened 170, we're as high as 185, we're as low as 135. I think we're back up to minus 160 now. But again, the case I keep hearing here for Jessica Andrade is she's 20 pounds less, but she's still only 5'2" to me. And everyone says, well, look at Claudia Gaudela and how she, for the first 2 rounds, she was able to keep Joanna Jędrzejczyk down and beat her up before she gassed out. And they all say, well, at 25 years old, Andrade will be able to do that throughout the entire fight. And I'm like, okay, I get that, but I've never seen Jessica Andrade take anyone down lately. She stands in there and just goes crazy, super aggressive. To me, she's going to have length disadvantages still, height disadvantages still, and she's going to walk into the greatest striker in the history of women's UFC that we've ever seen strike. And I really like Joanna Jędrzejczyk here, and I think the line should be higher.
And what kind of takedown did Claudia have her most success with Jessica in that fight?
No, I mean Claudia versus
I'm sorry.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Yeah. When Claudia fought Joanna, those first 2 rounds, how did she take her down?
Well, she got her to the fence. I mean, she's able to push her back to the
and
fence.
was able to get double legs
Yeah.
or judo throws?
No, I think most of them were double legs, actually, against the fence. Kind of get her against the fence, pick her up, put her down.
Because Jessica Andrade, her best takedowns are her judo throws. We saw that against Raquel Pennington. She was able to get that underhook and toss her over her hip. She scored most of her takedowns like that. She doesn't have the best double leg. She's more of a judo-style takedown artist, and I just don't see her tossing Joanna.
Yeah, I don't see that. I see Joanna. She knows how to use her range, and she got great footwork. This girl's going to be swinging wild. She's probably not going to be there for it.
And she's got strong hips, a pretty good sprawl. And, usually someone gets caught on the fence and makes some mistakes, and they spend a lot of time working on that and kind of fixing that error. And I expect her to have kind of solved that problem so Jessica can't get those easy takedowns on the cage. And taking her down in the middle of the cage is going to be a hard thing to do because Joanna's got some strong hips.
And think about the UFC women's strawweight division. There's a lot of wrestlers in that. The first UFC women's strawweight champion, Carla Esparza, she was a pure wrestler. Joanna picked her to pieces in that
Didn't even
fight.
come close to
That's
taking
right.
Joanna down.
Not
close.
even close. So I mean, I think Joanna has faced this problem before, and she's faced a lot of tough guys. Nothing against Jessica Andrade. She's awesome. She's super aggressive.
Tough guys.
Yeah, I mean, tough girls. Super fun to watch, but I don't
know what
see
they
how
look
she
like.
wins this fight. I mean, tell me how she wins the fight.
I
She
agree.
wins
I was
the knockout?
expecting her to be a bigger
Me
favorite
too.
than that. I wish I would have caught it when the line went down to minus 130. But, you got to watch those all the time.
Yes.
How do you keep up with that? It's 185, it's 130.
Yeah.
You know who you want to pick, but it's like you got to be constantly busting your CG Sports app open and checking the line because that thing's moving. And look at some of the losses Jessica Andrade has had. She won a fight with Raquel Pennington, but she lost their last fight with Raquel. They fought twice. Liz Carmouche she lost to, and Marion Renaud, I believe she was submitted by.
And look, Liz, nothing against Liz Carmouche, but I mean, losing to Liz Carmouche isn't great. And I know that Andrade is young, still just 25, and undefeated since she dropped down to 115. But what's that been, 2 fights? I mean, it hasn't been, it's not like she's won 6
At
in
the
a row
most
at
2
115.
fights.
That's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
And people talk about Jessica going to have a strength advantage, and I was going to say size advantage, but she's only 5'2". But she's never faced anyone with this kind of speed, this kind of hand speed that Joanna has. Probably the fastest hands in that division.
And when you talk about cardio, I've never seen anyone in that division with better cardio than Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
I think Joanna's gonna make her work that first round just to get her tired.
You're trying to take her down. That's a
I
good
think-
strategy.
Yeah.
Because Jessica's going to be desperate to get her down.
And Joanna's been the distance in her last 3 fights. Everyone assumes that because she's a striker, she's also must be a knockout artist. But in reality, her last 3 fights have all gone the distance. She's used to fighting 5-round fights now. She's used to what it takes to win a 5-round championship fight in the UFC. And there's no one more confident in Joanna Jędrzejczyk than Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I really like her in this spot.
And Jessica in her fights sometimes does that Balboa where she just keeps coming forward, throwing punches.
Head down.
And if we see that in this fight, I think she's going to be playing into Joanna's hands and Joanna's strengths.
I agree. A lot of times in the Andrade fights, you see where she just gets frustrated, head down, let's go.
Like Diego Sanchez in
That's
it.
right, yeah. And that's not going to work against the
No.
Muay Thai striker
That'll
like
be
Joanna.
the worst thing
Yes.
she could do in that fight.
And that was a little insult to injury there, just to remind me of my parlay that got killed last week. Because of
Diego never gets knocked out.
Never.
Moving down the line. Jorge Masvidal versus Damian Maia. We got two Brazilians here, and Damian Maia, man, I hate betting against him. On paper, I'm thinking, okay, Masvidal, he's been on fire lately. He's been knocking guys out. He absolutely destroyed Cowboy Cerrone, destroyed Jake Ellenberger. Damian Maia is going to stuff those takedowns and beat him up, but Maia is durable as hell. The only guy he's ever been stopped by or knocked out by, he hasn't been. Damian doesn't get submitted. So
No.
The only guy he was stopped by was Nate Marquardt, and that was ages ago. And Damian Maia always proves me wrong, but he has some losses on his record. He lost to Shields, lost to Rory McDonald, and up at 185 has lost to Weidman Munoz by decision, but at 170 he's been tough.
6-fight win streak, and in the last 5 fights, we have seen significant line moves against Damian Maia. I don't know if it's his age, I don't know if it's his style, but
style.
bettors have
Probably
heavily bet against him. 5 straight fights. This makes the 6 in a row, and look, they've all lost a lot of money betting against Damian Maia. When you
So
look
have
at
I.
the list of names, Neil Magny, Gunnar Nelson, Carlos Condit, these are big-time top 10 opponents. I don't know that I've ever seen a fighter in the UFC that deserves a title shot more with the list of names he's beat. It's going to be an interesting fight here.
Yeah, I'm going to be pulling for him. I mean, I remember when he first came into the UFC back when I was fighting, and I just thought, oh my God, pure jiu-jitsu guy.
Yes.
This guy's going to get eaten up in here. And here he is 10 plus years later, still going at it, like this close to getting a title fight. I mean, if he wins this one, it's almost guaranteed he's going to get that title fight. But he is 39 years old, and Masvidal, my God, he's been on fire lately. And his last 3 losses have all been split decisions, which actually has motivated him to be a little more aggressive lately. And now he's been starching guys.
And you're right. To that point, a lot of his losses were split decisions. I was trying to look back. I think he had some ridiculous thing like 8 of his 11 career losses were split decision or something. It was just an amazing number. And you're right. He has gotten a lot more aggressive. Starched Jake Ellenberger. Absolutely blasted Donald Cowboy Cerrone, which I think has a little bit to do with all the betting activity that's come on him this week when you blast out a super popular guy like Cowboy Cerrone. But the thing I have to wonder about him is none of those guys, Cowboy Cerrone, Jake Ellenberger, were the jiu-jitsu ace that Damian Maia is. And are you going to be so aggressive to go after a jiu-jitsu ace knowing that if he gets you down, you could be just another victim?
But you are Brazilian. You are Jorge Masvidal. And, I mean, I think he's been submitted once in his career. Ages ago. It's been over 10 years. I was looking at his record a while before this show. And, Masvidal, man, he's going to be a hard guy to get that submission on. But I said the same thing about Carlos Condit.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was
think
too
Carlos
easy.
was ever tapped. And Damian did it in a minute and a half. And Damian, really good at winning decisions, because if you're defending submissions, you're losing the fight. And if Damian does get this fight to the ground, it's going to be all defense. Masvidal might as well just throw that round away.
And everybody says one word when they talk about Damian Maia: jiu-jitsu, 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 and that's it. But one of the reasons his jiu-jitsu is so good is his chain wrestling to get you there is actually really good.
That's a good point, Matt. And durability, like I said, he's been stopped once in his career, and that was way back against Nate Marquardt 10 years ago.
2009, I think, was the last.
8 years
2009
ago.
was the last time he got stopped.
Yeah, a while ago. So he's durable, and he's been in there with everyone, with Anderson Silva.
And everybody he fights is a better striker than him. That's
Yeah.
all they ever
Yeah.
say, and
Yeah.
no one ever gets it done.
Yeah. So, and this one's pretty much a pick 'em. And gosh, I don't know who to pick in this fight. I'm not going to touch this one with my money. You guys?
I'm taking Damian Maia for my second pick.
Of the
Am
parlay?
I only
or
doing 3, right?
per parlay? You
Per
could
parlay.
do more than one parlay.
Unless I get shut out right away. So I'm going to go with Damian Maia because I like how he just disappoints people.
I'm actually going to go with Damian Maia, too, because at minus 125, this is another one of those fights I think is really close. I had no interest in laying money with Damian Maia, but now that I can get a plus money with him, Look, I like Jorge Masvidal, and I was also impressed. Like everybody else who watched what he did to Cowboy Cerrone, wow, that was impressive. How could you not be impressed?
Damian Maia's not going to kickbox
That's right.
him.
And he's also found a way to lose 11 fights, Jorge Masvidal. So, I mean, it's not like the guy's been on this amazing streak for all this time. He's lost 11 times throughout his career, so there's been plenty of times where he's disappointed, and if you make a mistake against Damian Maia, he just chokes you out.
That's a good point. Moving down the card, Yair Rodriguez versus Frankie Edgar, and all Frankie Edgar does is win fights as long as they're not title fights.
Yeah, you know, this is a guy, everyone talks about how good Frankie Edgar is, and I had to look back because I actually made a wager on Frankie Edgar myself. The most tickets we've written on any fighter on this card is Yair Rodriguez. And I went, man, why is everyone betting Yair? What am I missing here? This seems like way too much of a step up in class to me. And then I look back, and yes, Frankie Edgar is 6-0 in the featherweight division against everybody else not named Jose Aldo. But he's 3-4-1 in his 8 title fights in the UFC. And I started to think, boy, you know, at his age, that's not all that impressive, considering every time he fought the very top guys lately, he's lost more times than he's won. At this point, I'm a little bit nervous about, even though I bet Frankie already, so I'm hoping he comes through, I'm a little bit nervous about what, you know, we always talk about being hungry and going for the title. Well, obviously, if Jose Aldo beats Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar is never getting another title shot at 145 pounds. And you wonder about some of the, you know, how's that play into his training and stuff. The one thing I thought was interesting is despite being the lightweight champion of the world, fighting at a higher weight class, Yair Rodriguez is the tallest guy Frankie Edgar's ever fought.
That's a good thing to know.
It really is. How's he going to deal with that length? I know Cub Swanson was a little bit taller with him, and man, I thought that'd be a closer fight than it was. He absolutely tore Cub Swanson apart. He mauled him like a bear in that fight, and I think he's going to be able to do the same thing to Yair Rodriguez in this fight. Yair is a kicker. His hands aren't too good. His hand speed isn't excellent.
Kick.
And he throws a lot of looping, relatively slow punches. Don't get me wrong. If he lands one of those kicks or jump knees, he loves to do the double kicks and front jump knees, Frankie Edgar's going to sleep. But if he doesn't land one of those, he's not knocking Frankie Edgar out, and he's losing this fight.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is interesting here is that, you know, Yair, we talk about, you know, Yair in this fight. The problem with betting him is that we've never seen him against a ranked opponent. Yair Rodriguez has never beat a guy ranked in the UFC official rankings right now, ever. So the fact that he's fighting Frankie Edgar in a fight where basically if he wins, he's going to get a title shot is just simply amazing. And because of the level of opponents, we don't really know what to make of him. I mean, I love BJ Penn, my son. That's his favorite fighter of all time, the prodigy, you know. But that wasn't the BJ Penn of old that he was fighting.
No,
BJ Penn was there
years
to get
old.
hit by those moves. And, you know, what's his best win over that? A split decision that was really tight against Alex Caceres, a blown-up 135er?
That's what I wanted to touch on. I wanted to bet this fight, so I watched some of Yair's fights. And, yeah, it's a very close, tough fight with Alex Caceres.
Yeah.
He got a split decision. And if you watch a fight with Charles Rosa, that was also a pretty close fight. He got a split decision in that fight, and he got taken down a lot in that fight. And pretty much his offense after the first round was really neutralized.
And who's better at taking guys down than Frankie Edgar and that Ricardo Almeida jiu-jitsu team? I mean, Frankie Edgar has made a living at it, taking down strikers and beating them up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm taking Yair.
Well, with all that said, I'm taking the other guy.
And Frankie, let's go back to, I always call it ring smarts, but cage smarts. He's been in all those title fights. He knows how to win rounds. And you better believe that Frankie Edgar's not going to give Yair that distance. He's going to close the distance. When they're standing up, he's going to make him box. And Yair's not so dangerous boxing as a puncher. And he's going to make him wrestle a lot. And that's a long, you know, even though it's not a 5-rounder, I'd like Frankie even more if it was. But 15 minutes is going to be a long time to keep Frankie Edgar from taking you down. And once Frankie gets him down, Yair's got a good guard, but has anyone ever submitted Frankie?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No.
At minus 120, I think Frankie Edgar is a steal in this fight. And unlike Nick, I'm taking the steal. I like Frankie Edgar, and that's where my money's going.
You got
Yeah,
Frankie?
I already bet
Yeah,
Frankie, and
he already
I
got.
wish I
What
would've-
did you get Frankie at?
I had to lay 135, and I thought that was going to be a steal, and they kept betting Yair,
Yeah,
and it's down to
yeah.
120.
Now
When
it's
it
the
hit minus
120.
135, I said, wow, that's a
Wow,
bargain.
that's a steal.
It's never going to be any lower than that, and of course I was wrong, but I just don't see how Yair Rodriguez, just like you said earlier, if
Other
he
than the
lands that,
knockout.
that's right. Yes, I don't see how he wins a decision here.
That's right. I agree. And at minus 120, here's some value, guys. Here's a steal. Make your money. Thank me later. Let's move on. Sergio Pettis versus Henry. Who? Cejudo. Where did he go? He's gone. He's off the card, Matt. He pulls out last minute. What is going on?
Yeah, and this is another one of those cases where, my wrist hurts or I hurt my hand. All of a sudden, the rumors I heard was that Henry Cejudo was going to have a lot of trouble making weight this week, and suddenly his hand started hurting, and he's out of the fight. And that whole flyweight division has been thrown into sort of turmoil here with Joseph Benavides, torn
It's
ACL.
been cleaned
Yeah,
out.
he's out more than 12 months. He already lost twice to DJ anyway, but he beat Cejudo. Now Cejudo's out. Who's next?
going to fight
That's
Mighty
right.
Mouse?
I saw that they gave a new opponent for Ben Wynn from the Benavides fight. Our friend who fought here at the end of the tough finale against DJ Elliott. Tim Elliott. Yeah, he's going to
Yes.
fight Ben Wynn, and they couldn't get a replacement opponent this quick for Pettis, so unfortunately young Sergio's off the card, but I just don't know what's next for DJ with that division. Maybe Brandon Moreno.
Maybe Moreno or the winner of Elliott Wynn, right? Who
Yeah.
else is there?
There's just nobody
There
left,
really
really.
is no one.
Yeah.
So
Cleaned
he's
him
off
out.
the card. Word had it earlier in the week, Tuesday, Henry looked really fat, and now he mysteriously injures his hand the day before weigh-ins. I'm calling some BS, Nick.
Yeah, when you're down in Mexico, things are easy down there. You eat a lot down there.
And interestingly enough, he
too
was the
many
biggest
burritos.
favorite on this card.
Yeah. He took it off now, but he was about minus 400.
Yep.
And now that's been scrapped, so one of the undercards is getting bumped up. Who's getting bumped up to the main card?
I'm not sure. Natural instincts would always say Eddie Alvarez versus
Dustin
Dustin.
Poirier.
Yeah, because it feels like a main card fight anyway.
Totally.
But having that as your main event for the free TV cards is awful nice for the FS1 viewers. So I'm not 100% sure. If you bump that fight, I haven't seen. I'm gonna have to look later when we're done with the show, unfortunately, and I'll tweet it out which one they've officially moved to the main card.
Well, let's talk about that. Dustin Poirier versus Eddie Alvarez. Poirier has been looking good since he moved up to 155 pounds. And he is a very slight favorite at minus 125 against Eddie Alvarez, who looked terrible in his last fight against Conor McGregor. But McGregor makes most guys look terrible against them.
McGregor also made Dustin Poirier look terrible
Yeah,
when he knocked him
exactly.
out. Yeah.
It made both those guys look bad.
Yeah.
But
he
the Alvarez
he threw,
being fresher in people's heads.
He threw Eddie around like a rag doll, so.
He did.
Yeah, he lit him up like a Christmas tree.
But
Then
interestingly
dropped
enough,
him like a
look,
prom dress.
everyone's talked about how good, and this is another one of these fights where we flip-flop favorites here, and everyone's talked about how good Dustin Poirier's looked since he dropped down to lightweight. He's 4-1
Or
since
popped up.
popped back up to lightweight, since featherweight. But I'm not overly impressed. Look, he got starched by Michael Johnson. He got a gift decision, or I don't want to say a gift decision. He probably earned it, but that fight with Jim Miller was a heck of a lot more competitive than most people thought going into that
Yeah,
fight.
I thought he won that fight, but you're right. I thought he would blow Jim Miller out of the water, and he didn't.
And when you look at his other fights since he dropped down to 155, Bobby Green, Joseph Duffy, nice wins, don't get me wrong, quality guys. But, Eddie Alvarez is a deserved and earned a top 5 ranking with wins over Anthony Pettis, Gilbert Melendez. He's beat these top-ranked guys before. And what I like about Eddie Alvarez is the guy comes in with the Black Zillions and with a plan every time. Look, his fight against Anthony Pettis was so frustrating for fans because rather than strike with Pettis, he kept putting him against the cage, holding him there, stalling the fight, would put him down. And look, it might have been boring at the end of the day, but he won. And he's a guy who's shown the ability to adjust game plans throughout. I actually like Eddie a lot in this fight.
You like Eddie in this fight? I kind of like Dustin in this fight. Big reason because Eddie Alvarez, his defense isn't too great. He comes in with good game plans, but I don't think he's going to be that hungry to get this fight to the ground like he did with Anthony Pettis. He knew he didn't want to stand up with Pettis. With Poirier, I don't think he's going to give him that same kind of respect. And I think he's going to sit in there in the pocket and slug it out with him a little bit and pay the price. I think Dustin Poirier has advantage when it comes to hands in this fight. He's got the reach, got the better, more crisp boxing. And that's kind of the reason I like him in this fight. Not too much, but, I just giving a little edge to him.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about this fight, but I'm leaning towards Dustin because I'm not sure how Eddie's going to be after his last fight.
Look, they both have unbelievable KO percentages, but people forget Eddie Alvarez has 15 knockouts to his credit, and if you don't think he can bang, just ask Rafael Dos Anjos how it feels to get hit by Eddie Alvarez, because I don't remember anyone else ever knocking out Dos Anjos, but Eddie Alvarez did. Eddie Alvarez has legit one-punch knockout power.
That was a back-and-forth round. Eddie was getting hit a little in that round.
He absolutely was. And look, Dustin Poirier has proven in the Michael Johnson fight that his chin isn't great either. Conor blasted him. Michael Johnson blasted him. He's been knocked out a couple times. Both these guys have huge, heavy hands. I think Dustin Poirier has advantages in hand speed, and he's probably a little bit better in submissions. Eddie, I think, is a better wrestler. Dustin's a better submission guy on the ground, and they both can put you to sleep with one punch, and they both have shown with their chins that they can get hurt. So who lands the first big strike?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Or, who lands the first big strike might lose because Eddie Alvarez is known to get hit with those first big strikes and come back when he's hurt.
That's right.
And turn things around. So this is going to be an exciting fight. I'm really looking forward to this fight. I'm taking Dustin. Let's not forget, he has that win over Max Holloway. And also, like Nick said, Eddie coming off of embarrassing loss like that, does he have a little shell shock? I mean, is he going to be able to shake that to leave that loss behind him and just pick up?
Is he going to be tentative or is he
is he going to be a little scared to get in there and mix it up? Or is it going to be that old Eddie Alvarez where he does get hit and he just charges forward, fist of fury, and lets his hands go?
The good news is that loss to Conor McGregor was actually almost exactly to the day 7 months ago tomorrow. November 12th to May 12th. So I feel like 7 months is a pretty good amount of time for a pro like Eddie.
Not only to heal, but psychologically to get over the loss.
The more important thing to me for Eddie in this fight, because he's only 33 years old, but he's been in a lot of fights, is you always talk about fight miles. Those wars with Michael Chandler and Bellator, and the fight with Gilbert Melendez, then the war with Rafael Dos Anjos where he almost got knocked out himself. And has this guy taken too much damage? Is that going to start to have a residual effect? Because I think Eddie is the guy who has shown that he can get hurt and come back. And the few times I've seen Dustin get hit and get hurt, he goes to sleep.
Yeah, he doesn't come back. He doesn't rebound from loss. He doesn't come back from the clenches of defeat like Eddie Alvarez does. Eddie's got the advantage in this department. But, hey, fight's almost at a pick 'em. Eddie Alvarez at plus 105. It's going to come down to who's got the better chin, maybe?
That's what I'm thinking.
I actually made a pretty substantial bet on this fight, and it was under 1.5 rounds plus 175. Because if you look at the total on this fight, it's 1.5 rounds over minus 205. I actually took the under on this fight at plus 175, figuring these guys are going to come out and slug it out. Neither one of them have the best chins in this world. I'm not sure this thing has to go the distance.
Matt. See, I never think about things like that. To me, it's about who's going to win. Are those odds worth it? But that's pretty deep. Very sophisticated
at a big plus
betting strategy.
At a big plus.
At a nice big plus there. So moving on down the card, I think we're betting that that's going to be the fight that gets bumped up to the main card.
Yeah.
At about a pick 'em.
That's a good odds. I like that.
And going down the card, just going to talk about two more quick fights here. Fight I'm really looking forward to. Both guys are exciting. I think this fight is kind of a fans type fight. These guys are going to go at it. Jason Knight versus Chaz Skelly. As we all know, Jason Knight really likes to talk to his opponents during the fight, say stuff like, "I know you want to take me down, bitch. You ain't getting it." You know? And Chaz Skelly, he looks a little awkward. He doesn't look, when he's fighting, like he's got that good of boxing skills, but his hands have surprising power on him. He has a hell of a right hand, right? He throws it right from here. His shoulder goes all the way into it, and it has some pop on it. He hurts guys with that punch, and I think his hands are a little underrated. Jason Knight, though, he's got the harder jab. I think he has a better left hand, more educated jab. He uses it well. He's got a really hard right low kick. Chaz Skelly, I got to give a wrestling advantage to, and right hand power. I give that to Chaz Skelly.
I'm with you here, and I'm really glad that you brought up the fact that this is going to be a fan-friendly, exciting fight. Because when you look at these guys on paper, if you don't know them, you go, oh, Jason Knight, 2 KOs and 16 wins. Chaz Skelly, 3 KOs and 16 wins. Jason Knight, 10 submissions. Chaz Kelly's 10 submissions. These are both jiu-jitsu guys that are going to roll around. But that's not the case here. These guys are both ultra aggressive, and they're going to go at it.
They're going to beat the hell out of each other.
And I'm thinking they're both jiu-jitsu guys, so they're like, okay, why even go jiu-jitsu?
Let's cancel it out.
Just cancel that out. And let's
Jiu-jitsu's
just
a
bang it
wash,
out.
and let's bang it out.
Give the fans a show.
I actually like Chaz Skelly a lot here, and the only 2 guys he's ever lost to, one of them you're familiar with, fellow Indiana boy Darren Elkins, and then the guy that Darren Elkins beat, Merced Bektik, who's the only guy to ever beat Bektik. So.
But if you watch that fight with Bektik, Chaz Skelly he knocked him out in that fight.
Yeah.
Like that deceptive right hand, he hit him over the top of the head on the temple with it a couple of times and had him rocked. And Bektik went down, and the first knee he hit him with was questionable. I thought it was legal, and the second one was illegal, but Bektik was knocked out. They deducted a point. Bektik ends up winning. I think it was a majority decision. So a really close fight. And, I mean, Chaz Skelly really knocked him out in that fight. But sorry to cut you off, Matt.
And Bektik's a ranked guy, and Elkins is a ranked guy. I mean, Chaz Skelly is actually undefeated in the UFC against unranked guys. At basically a pick 'em here. I think he's the more proven commodity of the 2.
You're right. In their ground game, both of them 10 set submissions. It cancels each other out. Chaz Skelly, just a hard guy to beat, like that fight with Bektik.
Yeah.
I think he would have won that fight if it weren't for that point deduction. And he did. Before the legal knee hit, he was hurt with those punches. And Jason Knight, a fans type of fighter, who doesn't like a guy who's talking crap to the other guy during the fight? He has a decision loss to Kawajiri on his record. But other than that, in the UFC, he's been perfect.
One of the guys, someone I know that bet this fight, and I bet Chaz Skelly, and I really like him here because he's undefeated against ranked guys. I saw the Bektik fight like you did. I'm like, wow, this guy's competing against the top 6 guys in the world in this weight class. And maybe this is a good question for Nick or you. And someone I know that bet Knight in this fight said the biggest jump some of these guys make is when you get around 15 to 20 fights and you're in that 23 to 24-year-old range. That 23 to 25, 26 jump is your biggest jump as far as the learning curve. And they said they expect a big improvement in Jason Knight.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah, he's only 24 years old, but yeah, he's right around the 20-fight mark. So, yeah, this kid could be getting better. Where Chaz Skelly, I didn't even look at this statistic, is 32 years old. A little bit older, but I think he's got a couple good years left him. I didn't get old to my late 30s, so I think we're still seeing the best Chaz Skelly in this fight, but very close fight. It's pretty much a pick-em. Me and Matt like Chaz Skelly in this fight. I just think
I like Chaz in this.
the one main reason I like Chaz Skelly in this fight is ring smart. Cage smarts. He did it again. Cage smarts. This guy knows how to keep it close and win rounds, whereas Jason Knight fights a little more off emotion. You know, we'll see him like just go to his guard, like throwing up submissions and give away rounds and do things like that. He's a little more impulsive, a little more chaotic, a little more reckless. Where I think Chaz Skelly is a little more calculated in his approach. And in the back of mind, Chaz is going to be thinking about things like, am I winning this round? 30 seconds left. What do I got to do to win this round? And that's one of the reasons I like him in this one.
And look, had he have won that Bektik fight, wouldn't we be talking about Chaz Skelly versus some much different fighters
that's
here?
True.
And, you know, we wouldn't
That's a good point, Matt. Yeah. He wouldn't even be fighting Knight. Nick, Skelly or Knight?
I'm taking Skelly.
Oh, yeah. We all like Skelly in this fight.
I like the fact that a guy's got a nice little sharp right hand.
Yeah, he doesn't telegraph it at all. And, you know, his jab isn't the best, but, like, you get used to seeing that jab, and out of nowhere, that right hand lands. You'll like it, man. I'm telling you. We all like Skelly in this fight, but, hey, it's not going to be a blowout. This is a very good, close, competitive fight, and a great one for the fans. And the last fight I want to talk about, Krzysztof Jojko against David Branch. David Branch, the last World Series of Fighting 2-division champion, and he's fighting Jojko, and Jojko minus 145 because of his record. He only is, 19-1 or something like that. He's only got one loss on his record. I actually like Branch in this fight.
I like David Branch a lot in this fight, and the two things I think Branch has going against him is now he's on the other side of 35, which, look, I just turned 40 on Sunday, so I'm not knocking anyone on the wrong side of 35. And, you know, this is actually
the 53. So.
And this is the first time that David Branch has fought in the UFC since 2011. And I don't want to take anything away from the World Series of Fighting, of course, but people always, you know, it's what have you done against UFC fighters kind of thing, right? And you have Krzysztof Jojko coming off a win over a ranked guy in Talis Leitas, and David Branch on the other side. But I always remind people that David Branch was beating UFC guys when they first went to WSOF. Like when WSOF signed Yushin Yokami, who beat him? David Branch. So this guy comes in on a 10-fight win streak now.
Yeah.
And look, I don't know anyone else who was ever a 2-division champ in a non-UFC sense. So, I mean, what he did was really impressive over there.
And he's improved a lot over the years. I remember when he took that knockout from Gerald Harris from the Slam. I think too highly of him, but I've been watching his fights since then. He just keeps getting better and better and better. He's been used to fighting these 5-round title fights. Yep. His cardio is outstanding. Physically, he's strong. His submission skills are great, and he's extremely durable. Let's not forget, in Titan fighting, he fought Anthony Rumble Johnson. He fought him pretty well, and actually, at the end of the second round, he had Johnson locked up in a full-on triangle. When that round ended, Johnson was not getting out. So he's durable. He's strong. I don't see him getting knocked out by Krzysztof. I don't see him getting submitted or even taken down by Krzysztof. And I think he's faced the tougher opponents over the years.
Yeah.
Physically the stronger guy. And I think he's durable enough to not get hurt by him and find a way to win this fight.
Honestly, I haven't watched Jojko fight, so I'm going to have to take a look at it.
Krzysztof fought Tamden McCrory.
That's right. Yep.
He was trained at our gym.
That's right.
Oh, really? Tamden?
I don't know if you were with him for that fight yet.
No, I wasn't with him. Dewey Cooper got him ready for some fight. I'm not sure which fight
I think it was the
was.
Nate Mard card. It was the fight after that.
Yeah. So I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen Jojko.
He's got good striking. He has pretty good striking.
But I do like David Branch. I mean, David Branch. I've met him.
Krzysztof, great record. Only one loss,
and the Leitas fight you saw. I don't mean to interrupt you. The Leitas fight you saw. Leitas can be outworked sometimes, and that southpaw with the tricky jab. I mean, it wasn't overly dominating. He just outworked him.
Yeah.
That's an interesting match. You know, because I'm interested in it so I want to do some research on this guy.
Yeah, I think this is a steal getting David Branch as an underdog in this fight. Jojko, he beat Talis Leites in a close fight. He outworked him, like Matt said. But he has a loss on his record to Magnus Siedenblad. Sorry.
Yeah. He was fighting on that kind of circuit for a while. They were using him on those international cards because I think he started off if I'm not mistaken, fighting at that gym, or either him or Siedenblad. Maybe it was Siedenblad who was fighting at that same gym Gustafsson did, and then he lost to Siedenblad. But like 12 other fighters who were on this card, he switched over to American Top Team. American Top Team has 13 fighters on this card. Just absolutely unreal. Christoph Jocko being one of them.
Wow.
I mean, does that make a big difference? So you're starting to your career, you get up to that, you're 18-1. I think he went to American Top Team before the Leites fight. I mean, sometimes at a big gym, though, you can get lost when there's some big fish and you're kind of the little fish in a big
I noticed
pond.
that when you start getting a lot of guys, they start getting lost in the mix.
Yeah.
You know, so they become training partners and nobody's getting trained.
Yeah.
You know, so you see a lot of guys now, like, for instance, Kevin Lee. He trains over at Couture's, but he comes over to One Kick's gym with Dewey Cooper just to get his attention. So Dewey pays a lot of attention to him. There's no other MMA guys really that are in the way, and he gets his work. And same thing with some of my guys. My guys train at other gyms, and they come over my gym for the stand-up. You know, Chidi trains over at Sergio Pena's, and he also may be starting to go over to wrestle over at Couture's. So, but they like their stand-up. They want to get their stand-up in. You know,
well, it's become so trendy now that you have to have that big gym affiliation, some of these guys, that, to your point, they go over there and then you're the small fish in a big pond.
And also training partners, to really develop your game, you have to go with people at all levels, really. And you figure things out and you put things together. Submission-wise, it's good how you feel, how people fall into submissions. When you're training with, you know, how many other guys in the UFC, man, you're probably never getting taps in the gym.
Look at John.
And you're fighting to survive, Stan. You're not really learning stuff. You don't have good sparring partners.
It's just
all
like,
those guys getting ready for fights at the same time.
John Fitch, for instance, you know, he never won a title before, and comes over to my gym 2 years. So I spent 2 years working on his stand-up. Not getting hit.
He was at
sparring with all my guys who were fast.
AKAs, sparring with all them.
Yeah, he sparred with all those guys.
Studs.
But when he came over there, you know, he had to deal with something different. He had to deal with guys that are well-schooled, stand-up-wise, but they got a little from each other. But he definitely got some good defense. Nobody worked him on his defense. Nobody worked him pads the way we do. And that's another thing. I don't like getting too many big names. I like the few names that I got, and I get to work those guys. So if I got 5 good guys, that's an awesome day because of the way we do our rotation. But any more than that, you start getting 8, you start getting 10. You can't work pads with all those guys. So you got to pick who you're going to work with that day, you know?
I mean, it has to me, everyone said, wow, look at all these American top guys on one card. I thought that has to be a disadvantage, pointing that many fighters toward one night.
Getting that many guys ready for one night.
Because how much attention are you getting from the head trainers and the head coaches over there?
And then if you lose every fight on the card,
oh, no.
Everyone leaves. So David Branch, 35 years old, but hey, man, I'm saying the right side of 35. Once he hits 36, 7, then I think he's going to start losing it. I think we're still seeing the best David Branch. He's got another good year or two, or maybe he's a Randy Couture, like 10 years left in him. But I think right now we're seeing the best David Branch. I think we're getting him as a steal, as an underdog in this fight. He's extremely durable, is strong. His submissions are awesome. And Christoph Jotko hasn't really fought the same level of competition. Before he came into UFC a couple fights ago, he had been fighting mostly guys in Europe. You know, he's from Poland.
That's right.
So, and David Branch, he was in the UFC like 10 years ago. Since then, he's been fighting all the best guys, either outside the UFC or that just recently had left the UFC. So, I think we're getting a steal here, seeing David Branch as an underdog, and that's why I like him in this fight.
And I think he actually got better, and every time I watched him in WSOF. He was a big underdog, and if you go back and look at odds, a good site to track old odds really easily is called bestfightodds.com. because you can click on the fighter and you see all his odds for every fight in one place. So I'm giving them a free plug. I don't even know the guys over there. They get a free plug on the show, bestfightodds.com. But you can click on the fighter. Now you get all his old fights. And you'll see that David Branch was a huge underdog to Yushin Yukami. No one knew David Branch at the time. He whips Yushin Yukami, and then he goes on and wins 7 more fights in a row, wins the middleweight title, wins the light heavyweight title over there, and he looked better and better every time I saw him. And we've seen guys go well into their mid-40s in MMA. Look, Damian Maia's 39, and he's unbelievable. He's on a 6-fight win streak against ranked guys. So just turning 35, I have no issues with the age. And to your point, which I've tried to look at more and more, it's all about Miles. I never see this guy in wars. He's dominating people lately.
Even with Rumble Johnson, I mean, he is durable. He's a hard guy to hit clean.
Yeah.
And that fight went the distance. And, yeah, I just don't see Christoph really being able to hurt him in this fight.
Maybe it's the unknown factor because he hasn't been in UFC for 6 years. Jocko's coming off the win over the ranked guy.
That's a good point.
So we get the plus money.
Well, I'm going to wait on that bet. I'm going to do some research on this guy.
You don't trust us.
I'm at a little disbelief right now.
We're telling you it's
I
too
got
good
a
to
guy
be true.
19-1. I'm like, I got to take a look at this guy. You know?
Yeah.
So, hey, guys, I hope you make some money off of these fights. Once again, the steals are the ones that I think the most value are getting David Branch as an underdog, getting Frankie Edgar as a pick'em at dead even, and getting Joanna Jędrzejczyk at, what's it down to, minus 130 now, 135?
I think it's
something like that?
155.
So I think that's still a valuable bet to put down. Those are my 3 picks as to where the value is, like how can you really make easy money off this card, and those are my picks.
Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead.
The one thing I would say to people is, and I just wanted to show these real quick, is, you know, everyone says, I want to bet a little money to win a lot, so I'm going to pick 4 or 5 guys in a parlay. One of the ways to make a lot of money without having to pick 4 or 5 guys is if you have a fighter you like, hey, this is how the fight's going to go. It has to end this way. I mean, look at some of the prices you can get. If you think, Dos Santos to win by knockout, just to win in the 3rd round, 15-1. You can get some big prices on props. We have full props up, how every guy's going to win, knockout, decision, what round, for all of the fights on the main card. And those are usually really big odds. So, this might be a different way than having to put a 5-team parlay in. Bet $100 on a 15 or 20-1. Pick the exact round or exact way that some guys are going to win. And if you really study the fight game, just listening to what we said, some of these fighters really only have one way to win. If they're going to win, it's going to be by decision or by knockout. They're not going to win the other way. Like, Damian Maia's not getting submitted. Don't put your money there.
Yeah, very interesting. See, I never bet like this. I got to start looking into this more. I like taking my picks, seeing the odds, but this is a different way to bet. I want to learn more about it.
Yep, I have to learn more about that as well because sometimes those parlays don't work out.
Yeah, and they're a little harder. So, yeah, you get some really good odds here if you could pick the round. And most heavyweight fights, like I said, they're going to end in the first round. It's going to be a heavyweight fight. But with these 2 guys, I don't know. I highly doubt it. But then again, Junior did that with Kane in their first fight, so it is possible. But we're in for a treat. We're in for a great night of fights. And I gave you my 3 fights where I saw kind of the biggest value, the ones that I'm going to be putting my money on. Any of you guys got any golden nuggets for the fans before we close out?
Well, I'm looking at my parlay Junior and Damian Maia and Yair.
I just wanted to throw in real quick one of the other big movers that we didn't talk about. It's Gabriel Benitez and Enrique Barzola. It's not a fight with really any known guys, but Gabriel Benitez opened minus 220. He's down to minus 150. We've seen some really sharp action on Enrique Barzola. I did look at both of them. I thought they were both fairly equal. The one thing I did like about Barzola is he's never been stopped. So at least he seems durable in a fight that's probably going to get pretty gritty between these two. So might be worth taking a shot at. There's been some pretty sharp money on it.
Barzola's hot. He's plus 135, and what did it open at?
Plus 185. It was minus 220 on the other side.
Wow, went down 50 points. Woo.
Yeah. I like
action
Eddie
there.
Alvarez. I really like Frankie Edgar, and I am taking Joanna Champion.
Nice. There's Matt's bets. You got mine. Nick and his parlays. And wow, what a show. What fights we have Saturday. I can't wait. I'm going to just, I have a couple of my bets down, but I'm going to put a little more money on my app till I see the weigh-ins. Who looks fat? Who looks scared? I might throw another parlay down, Nick.
There you go.
Remind them, hey, don't miss the weigh-ins tomorrow. Fighters that miss weight, last 3 years, it's down to they only win 29% of the time.
From 38%
Yeah.
down to 29%.
They've lost the last 3 now, yeah.
God.
That's
Yeah.
because that's their way of saying, hey, I'm scared.
Yeah, except that Brazilian cowboy, but he was 11 pounds over, so he just used the size in
Yeah.
that fight.
And he got lucky they let him
Cowboy
fight.
Oliveira I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Great show. Great fights. Looking forward to it. For Mr. Odds Matthew Holt and One Kick Nick, I'm the American Psycho saying see you next time on the final round.